this seed is the perfect snow seed starting location. You do have a small little village with a pretty good flat area right next to the village for building. You do have some smaller areas over here. There's also a tree right there if you want more flat land area. And we start getting into the hills section right here. You are partially surrounded by an ice spike biome. You do have a structure right there, which does have some flat area nearby if you want to build around it. You have a pillager tower right there. And if we go across this mostly frozen lake, you have more trees to work with and more flat area for building. Even on top of this little hill right here. Got some flat area there, flat area there. Got some more stuff in the background if you want to build on those mountains or hills. But yeah, you're surrounded by a lot of ice spike, which I think is actually pretty thematic. In this seed, you're going to spawn right around here. You do have a decent sized little village right at spawn, but you have a massive amount of flat land pretty much all around this village. I mean, if you look over there, you got a large forest, got some hill forest over in that general area, plus a little structure off in the distance. You got flat area there, more so over here as well along this little river. You got another structure over here. It does look like an island, but I don't think it is. I think it's connected to that little piece of area over there. But you also have some more flat area over here. You have a island in the sky over there, another structure right there, large body of water right there, and just look at how massive this flatland area is. And you also got a rune portal and another structure right over here. I mean, just look. That's probably, if I were to hazard a guess, probably say a couple hundred blocks at least of just flatland area. So this is a very, very good seed for building or just having a nice open area like this. You're going to spawn in this general part of the village right by the fountain. And you do got a little small village right here, which is pretty good. However, you are on an island with a lot of interesting features. So you got that structure right next to the village. You got the little ship off in the distance right over there. And you're on an island. The island's pretty decent size as well. Obviously you have some structure, or not structure, you have a Badlands biome over there. And as you can see, there's another structure hidden right over here, which is pretty cool. And as you can see, it's an island. And you got some interesting features over there and a large body of water basically surrounding you on all sides, which is pretty interesting of a starting location. You're going to spawn generally in this area right here. If we take a look over in this direction, you can see we got a village and several structures over off in that distance. And as you can see, we're already at cloud level because we're at like 200 blocks high almost at this point. And if we turn around over here, we have a larger part of the village right over here that goes above this little mountain right here. However, it also goes partially into the mountain, as you can see right here. I think this is pretty cool. You do have a little cave system right there. And if we go over here, you can see you got some more flat land area over there. Not as much as you would typically get over in this area up here, but still pretty decent if you really like mountain seeds. In this seed, you're going to spawn right about here. You got a decent sized village right at spawn, right next to this ice spike biome right here. And as you can see, that's where the village pretty much ends. However, you do have a large flat snow seed right at spawn, right next to the village, and you have a lot of little trees that are in this little flatland area. However, you also have a pretty good scenic area with a lot of trees on that hill / mountain right there. And you do have a water biome over in that direction if you want to travel by boat or explore by boat. You're going to spawn in this little desert village right here for this seed, and you're going to have a little Badlands area over there with a nearby forest. However, if you turn around, you got this pretty big mountain / hill. It is massive, and it has a couple structures by it. You got a little structure right there kind of hidden by that little desert beach area right along the coast. You have that structure, that tower structure right there. And if you look up there, you can see some pretty interesting features right here. So you got a massive mountain, which honestly I think looks pretty freaking cool. You got some structures over there off in that distance. You do have a little bit of flat area right here to work with. And you got a little swamp biome right there. And a partially submerged ruined portal, it looks like right there. So you have a lot of interesting features near this massive mountain. So you are going to spawn in this village right here, this nice little forest village. If you go down to the water for this seed, you're going to come across this little abandoned mansion type structure right here. I think it looks pretty cool. It's right next to the village, so it's kind of like a little haunted mansion or abandoned mansion relatively close to the village, which I think is pretty cool. But if you look up, you got this massive mountain right here, which I think looks pretty freaking cool. You got this large forest with a few different types of trees and a massive snow-capped mountaintop right there, which I really, really like how it looks. If you come across this little waterway right here, you're going to see these little caverns or cave systems right there and right there. I really like it. You can see on the other side that there's water over there. So that feature appeals to you. You got a lot to go with right there. And over here, you have a little village off in the distance. So basically, look where the village spawns. And just go straight this way. You'll come across another little village. And you got a decent amount of flatland area to work with over here. And a cherry grove mountain or hill off in the distance next to that village. You are going to spawn right in this little village, which is a pretty cool village. As you can see, you can go underneath and come out the other side. It's like a little tunnel village, which is pretty cool. And you also got some on the top part. If we go over here, you will see a pretty good flatland area in the plains biome, which if you like a lot of flat area, there you go. That is a pretty large area for you to build, but there's more. If you look across there, you see a pretty interesting village, but it's also an island. So if you just cross this area, you're going to see some pretty interesting stuff. You also have that little underwater feature along the coast over there. But this right here I thought was pretty cool. I was like, oh, you got a nice, awesome flatland area over there, and just across the sea, ocean. Oh, there's another underwater structure right there. A boat right off the coast, which I thought was pretty cool. And a sky island, which is always nice to see one of those. But yeah, this is the village, which I really, really like the way it looks. Got a little castle in the middle, right up against the wall. As you can see, pretty good little village. And yes, like I said before, this is an island. You got a little mountain area over here as well. Really good for potentially putting a base on right there. A little flat area. And it's a pretty odd shaped island. It's not like a little round one that you typically see. It's just a really long one. And there's that little underwater feature that I was talking about. And it looks like there's another one right there as well. And that's your starting village right there. Right across from there. So yeah, as you can see, it ends there. And you got a little boat right not too far from spawn, actually. So you're going to spawn in this little coastal village right here. It looks pretty good. And you got a little structure right along the coast, along this beach area right here. You got a large open ocean area as well, so if you want to explore by boat, you can. However, if we come over here, you got a pretty large flat area right over here. And if you really want to go into the savanna biome, you got a mostly flat area there, minus the trees, which you could probably cut some of them down. Overall, you got a pretty large flat area, not a lot of features. If you don't want to have a bunch of structures or other things in your way and you just want to have a nice large open area with minimal features, this is the seed for you. You are going to spawn in this little snow village, which is not that big. It's pretty small. You do have a few structures right close to spawn, like right there, And you have this massive mountain, which I really, really like. And there's quite a few structures on there. As you can see, there's 1, 2, 3 right up over there. Got a pillager tower right there. And you have this ice structure right there, which is pretty cool. And another one right there. So you just have all these nice little features pretty much right at spawn. This is like a perfect winter wonderland seed for the time of the year. Got a nice little hilltop right here, which is relatively flat, assuming you're not going to build a massive building. And if you really like mountain scenery, there you go. And that cavern right below those cherry, or is it? Yeah, the cherry biome, or no, sakura biomes, or whatever the heck they're called. Cherry groves, there we go. Cherry grove biome right there. Look at that. That looks freaking cool. So you have a lot of interesting features to work with for this seed. And enjoy.